Have you ever set yourself out to get your to-do list totally done and it still didn't happen? Or start a project and get super frustrated because it's not going as fast as you want it to go? Or you just can't seem to get out of your own way to get it done at all? Hey, this is Lori, and I want to talk about tiny steps, small steps. Let's just take some small steps. Because if you look at you not getting your to-do list done, just like I don't always get my to-do list done, and get that project done on time, what happens to your self-talk? What are you actually doing to yourself? Are you criticizing yourself? Or are you saying, hey, that's okay, that's fine, I'm good with it, and have a healthy way about it? Or are you beating yourself up and just like nagging at you and criticizing yourself and making yourself feel even worse, which actually is depleting your energy, and good luck getting much done after that happens? Nobody likes to get nagged at. Nobody likes to get yelled at. And it's happening all the time. We are doing it to ourselves all the time. Just notice when you do something wrong, who's yelling the loudest? When you don't get something done that you really wanted to get done, or that list accomplished in a certain amount of time, what are you doing? You're nagging at yourself. You've created an extremely toxic relationship with yourself. Have you ever noticed that? If you have, please, let me know. Write down in the comments. It is really what the heck? Always complaining about all these other toxic relationships, which definitely do need to get resolved. But what kind of a relationship do you actually have with yourself? Are you being loving and kind to yourself? Are you being compassionate with yourself? It might be the hardest thing on the planet. And when you conquer that, your whole disposition changes. Your whole outlook on life changes. You transform into this, I don't need to try to be nice to this person or that person or fix my relationships, because what kind of ends up happening is that's the most number one important relationship you need to fix, is the one with yourself. And lots of times, not all the time, but lots of times, just by doing that, all your other relationships kind of work out magically because you've done your own inner work. You can also take the road of, healing all your other relationships, and then that can also transform the relationship that you have with yourself. At least the way that I like to do it, the most simple, profound way that I have discovered. But that's not what I'm talking about right now. What I'm talking about right now is, did you get your to-do list done? Did you get your project done? And what about taking small steps if you didn't? Just teeny tiny small steps. Take that project or your list and break it down into parts. So say you have, for instance, in my office here, I have a whole wall that needs to be repainted. It's been waiting since the winter. We had a very muggy summer here. It was extremely hot, to the point where I put an air conditioner in the window, where on this wall that needs to be finished painted. So it made that project even more. And why not wait until the weather gets better? There wasn't any rush except for me not liking what I'm seeing. Everything's, fine. There's no leaking. It's just a matter of aesthetics. So anyway, I needed to be okay with letting it just be. knowing that I would get to it. So then I put a date on my calendar as to when I'm going to get that done. Will I get it done on that day? I don't know. But if I take tiny steps and, maybe while I have some free time, not that there's much free time at all, but just needing to get up and stretch because I work a job that a lot of the time I'm sitting, like right now, making this video. And I can just take a stretch and maybe cover up all the holes, the nail holes, and have that done. Take a tiny step. So if I break down that project and make it tiny steps, tape off one day and then paint as the last step. And so therefore it's broken down into, say, 3 sections, plugging the holes, taping it off, and then painting, rather than one big, you know, time frame that might take most of a whole day to get that project done. So that's just one example, but you can do that with every single project, no matter how big or how small. Just look at the tiny steps, and you're going to have a better result of getting it done. When you don't do it, and then the project just sits there, or that to-do list just sits there, and you keep rewriting things and you keep not getting them done, and then your mind is beating yourself up. So you're constantly like, oh my gosh, I didn't get it done. Yeah, I got nag, 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 right? Which is depleting your energy. It's not making you feel good at all. You're not being very loving to yourself, not kind, not compassionate. You're probably treating yourself worse than your worst enemy. So notice that. And if you have that tendency to beat yourself up in many different circumstances, could you just notice that that's happening? And then could you notice that it's your mind looking for attention? And could you just let go of your mind being nagging at you? And you could do that in a way of just, like as if your mind is a 3-year-old looking for attention all the time, having tantrums because it's not getting it. And just give your mind love and approval. So could you just give your mind love and approval just because you can? And notice how that feels. So, engage in this. So could you give your mind some love and approval? Yes. And could you give your mind some more love and approval? Yes. And notice what happens very subtly. It gets quiet and quiet and quieter. It doesn't know what to do with that because you're actually giving it something that it's probably never had before from you. So could you give it even more love and approval? And even more love and approval. And even more love and approval. And whether you get your to-do list done or your project done, or, things just aren't going right and your mind is just nagging, and you just haven't noticed that that's what's happening. Instead of digging your head in the sand and like pouring yourself a big alcoholic drink that you might beat yourself up more for later, or, taking some pain reliever or numbing, something to numb your head with, could you just maybe try this instead and notice and just give your mind some love and approval, and even more love and even more love, and see what happens then. That's your first tiny step, to do that. And maybe some magic will happen. Maybe some things will just get done without even thinking about it. I hope this is helpful, and I would love to hear some of your comments. So please do share. Thanks for listening. I'll be back with more life skills.